Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Clarice. This week, I'm going to be speaking to Melanie Alveranga, who is the founder of a service called Room to Exhale. Room to Exhale is for frontline workers who are suffering stress and burnout. So stress and burnout is something that most of us that are in the frontline position are experiencing, and those symptoms include physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion, shame and doubt for feeling this way, cynicism and callousness, which is as a result of being overwhelmed, and the last phase is failure, helplessness, and crisis. For those of you that are in high risk working environments, please recognize the signs. The usual stages of burnout is the honeymoon phase, which is where you start a new task. It could be a new caseload, a new job, a new area of responsibility. And bit by bit, the onset of stress starts to emerge. And that's where you are aware that some days are particularly harder than others. And when that continues, you fall into the category of experiencing chronic stress. And at that stage is where people realize that something is not right, but usually internalize that or hide that for fear of the impact that it will have on their career. But ongoing chronic stress then usually leads to burnout. And if burnout is not addressed straight away or effectively, you can find that you are having episodes of burnout on a regular basis. So we use the term burnout quite freely nowadays, but it's a very, very serious issue. It can affect your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, and lead to mental exhaustion. And this is where you are suffering from excessive stress for prolonged periods of time. So you don't need to suffer in silence. As a professional myself, I have experienced burnout, but I've also seen my colleagues, past and present, suffer the effects of long-term stress in a job that they do because they care about the clients that they're in, that they work with, but also the clients getting a qualitative level of care. So today, welcome to Melanie Alveranga, founder of Room to Exhale. Frontline workers and burnout. And it's something that you and I both acknowledge and recognize because we are frontline workers. And if we want to go into what frontline means, then we can do that. But I just wanted to welcome you this morning and just wanting to know what it is that you plan to do and how is it that you're supporting frontline workers?
Clarice, thank you for having me today. Very interesting subject matter, really. If I just start from the beginning in a way, and then it may help inform. I've worked for the NHS for over 20 years, and my role is a scientific-based role. So I'm what they call a perfusionist, and running the heart-lung bypass machine for heart surgery. And I've done that for a number of years, loved my job, and it's been very full on, very rewarding and very satisfying. But a few years ago, I had a call-in for psychology. I've always been interested in psychology and it's always been one of those interests that you have outside work. So I embarked on a master's in psychology and looked at organisational psychology. And many subjects in that master's made me look at the area I was working in and how people behave in that within the organisation. And it just really led me to really understand behaviour, what was happening, the staff on the front line, what they were going through, and how a lot of them didn't realise what they were going through. And when I say frontline staff, I don't just mean staff within the NHS that are working in these high pressured environments, but it does cover, you know, social workers and, you know, people who deal with domestic violence and, you know, those kind of areas of work as well. And during that time, I realised that I was being bullied in my department. And it was quite interesting because you think, oh no, it can't be, this can't be happening to me. No, it can't be. And even though I knew the signs of exactly what was happening, and this is how I, you know, speak with other people about, you know, oh, it seems like this is it was actually happening to me, you know. So I set about really stemming that, you know, really stemming that and taking control of that situation, and took it through policy, you know, so that that doesn't happen again to me or to anybody else. So, you know, that was dealt with. But then I soon realised that I was able to see other people that were suffering from various other things. And I noticed that people would come and speak to me about things they had done always anyway, but it was just amplified. It seemed amplified now that they, you know, would come and talk to me about this is happening, or this in their relationship, or this with their children, or, you know, and they would continue to work, do everything and manage everything and act as if nothing. And the corridor conversations that we would have, they would feel a sense of relief from that, or a sense of, okay. And it led me to form my coaching business, Room to Exhale, because that is about giving people the space to really have a conversation about these things that are happening with them in their lives, really. So that's how Room to Exhale was born and came about.
Tell me a bit more about Room to Exhale, but I want to be a bit specific, because when we talk about frontline, as you said, it's not just about the nurses, it's also about the utility workers, veterinarians, postal services, public sector workers, probation, paramedics, etc. These are the people who are still out there on the front line providing services under a very strained environment. So the definition of burnout is best described as a state of severe emotional, physical and mental exhaustion. And excessive burnout is basically prolonged periods of stress while you're on work. That happened to me last year, yes, that's right, 2020. I was commissioned to provide a service for people who are surviving domestic abuse, from very high end to quite low end, and found that with the lockdown there was an increase of over 50% of clients. So we were getting referrals that usually were 10 a week to up to 20 to 25 a day, and that put a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm just like yourself. I did not recognize how much I was being bullied, did not recognize how much I was working excessively, thought I had boundaries, was stating to my clients that they need to set boundaries, they need to look in the mirror and learn to say no. And I was looking in the mirror and saying no, and then yes. So I continued on that on that treadmill until I found that my face became paralyzed. One day I was going to talk at a meeting and I couldn't get the words out. The right side of my face wouldn't work. I ended up having to go to hospital and was told mental exhaustion, extreme mental exhaustion. And that's when I was told this is better.
But you see, because people don't realise that they don't realise that as burnout. They won't call it burnout.
No.
Nobody comes to me and says, "Oh, I think I'm in stage 3 of burnout." You know, do you know what I mean? They just like, "Oh, I'm so stressed. I can't cope. I'm doing this, this and this." You know, and that's how they present. You know.
So one of the things as well, when do you think this started to happen? Because frontline work has always been hardcore. It's always been pretty out there. But to the point where it's only once in a blue moon, when I was working with drug addicts, etc., once in a blue moon, you'd hear a worker had a breakdown. But now,
There's a lot now,
yeah. Why do you think that is, Melanie?
Well, unless it was not called that they're having a breakdown, it would be, oh, you know, somebody, oh, they're on sick leave for months and months, and you know, you wouldn't actually really know what the reason was, or
True.
somebody, oh, they got a backache, but actually, because nobody wants it on their record that they're off sick with stress or burnout, or you know, those things are big taboos to have on your record. And so people would find other ailments. Backache is a big one, because you know, you can be off with your back for however long.
Very
or
true.
Even you're that stressed that you have got pain in your back, and it's nothing actually to do with your back. You are stressed and suffering from burnout, and you know, so it's secondary. And those are the things that people really suffered with. And that's why, that's my belief anyway, that why burnout wasn't typically said as, oh, you know, somebody's got burnout, they're off, or, you know. However, I think it's quite important now to highlight, and I think there has been a change that people are now saying, I'm off sick with stress, or I'm off, you know, and that needs to happen so that something can be done about it, and people can actually, you know, start working with that and really looking at what is causing the stress. Is there anything we can do? Is there anything the organisation can do? Has the organisation got things in place for its staff? Are staff suited to the organisation? You know, is that, you know, then you start looking at that. Is this role really suited to you? Are you, not that you're not fit for the role, but certain roles require a certain, you know, level of gumption almost, you know, because it's not easy. Like for example, I'm not sure I could be working with domestic violence, for example. You know, I think that takes a highly different skill. And, you know, I think those people that work with domestic violence are absolutely wonderful, courageous, everything. And those people will take a lot home with them. So those people will, you know, find that they need to have lots of different coping mechanisms for things like that. And when that breaks down, they get very stressed. And, you know, so it's different for all different working groups and workforce. But it is something that I think is now coming more to the forefront, how much stress does affect people at work, and people are being a bit more open about, you know, about that.
I agree. Like, so when you're talking about the much needed service that you're starting, tell us who you're specifically targeting, not in terms of workers, but in terms of the symptoms of burnout.
Right. So, yeah, now that's a very interesting question, because when when people come to me, quite often they don't actually realize that they are suffering from burnout.
Correct.
And they just feel, oh, you know, I can't cope, or not even I can't cope, but they just, I've got so many things going on, this is happening, that is happening. And the difference between the stress, feeling stressed, or saying that you're stressed, and actually realizing that you have burnout is that when you are stressed, once you have tackled a few of these tasks, you feel the relief and like, oh, okay, fine. But with burnout, you still feel that, and there is still more. There's still that level of, you know, you just feel like your cup is full to the brim, and there is no way, you can't see the end of that. And that is when the distinction between stress and having burnout. So I don't turn anybody away. If anybody wants to come and speak to me, they're more than welcome. And there are sometimes some people who have, their severity of burnout is to the degree that they actually need medical intervention. So those people I will refer on. But I don't actually turn people down, because I just feel that it starts with that conversation. And when you have that conversation, you actually start to realize certain things, and the client can actually, they let you know actually if they, how they feel after that conversation, and whether they need more intervention, you know. So all the frontline workers, and like we've established, that's everybody encompassing, you know, NHS staff to social care staff as well. You know, it's everybody will have varying degrees of what they define as stress, and then the determination will be whether that is burnout or not. But you know, some of the worst case scenarios of burnout is people end up just, you know, like resting for 2 to 3 weeks, doing nothing, vegetating, you know, or that's how it seems, but they are just so mentally exhausted, and physically as well. They just, you know, cannot take anything else on at that point.
The thing is, though, we're in the real world, as with you, you recognized, okay, this is happening and I'm not happy with it, so you had to set boundaries. And the fact is, this happened to a lot of my colleagues as well, and ex-colleagues, where they recognize that they're not coping, because there are many stages of burnout. And when it gets to chronic stress, most people then start to go numb. But the priority for them is, I've got bills to pay, I've got a family to take care of, I cannot afford to lose my job. If I state that I'm not coping, or if I state that I'm feeling this, how is that going to affect my contract or income? So that's another reason why I think it goes from mild stress to habitual burnout for a lot of professional people. Is that what you
Yes, that is exactly the point, that how people do get to that burnout stage, because when they are in the mild forms of it, they think they can carry on. Yes, they've got all these other things that, and commitments that they are having to deal with. So it is very much that they continue on, and you know, find themselves getting more and more into that degree of burnout. My philosophy has always been, you know, talking, having a conversation, finding somebody that you feel that you can have that little chat with. And you know, I'm very passionate about conversation, because I feel that there is a big stigma with mental health and taboo, and it is just so wonderful and freeing just to be able to speak to somebody about something. And quite often you'll find that the person you speak to may have an experience of a similar thing, you know, and then it's whether you decide to take it further and actually seek specialist help with that, or just having conversations about what you can do about it, if there's any treatment for it. But the sooner the better is what I always say to people. If people, it's an open room for conversation. That's what it is. It's not necessarily a course as such.
Is there a bracket? Do people have to be?
So in a situation like that, it would be really good if organisations were forward thinking in that way.
Yes.
That this has gone up exponentially. We probably need to get somebody in to speak to the staff as a group, and in that way they can offload, or but there's just some kind of group conversation that can happen, because there may be the one person who actually is feeling like this is too much, but doesn't want to say this is too much.
That's right.
We're in a pandemic. Lots of people are not working. Why would they want to highlight something? And then, so this is where I would really love organisations to become a lot more forward thinking in this way, to hold that for their staff, that they can have these conversations.
Are you
non-judgmentally?
Of course. Are you going to be pushing Room to Exhale to commissioners, to departments in public sector services? Will you be doing that? Because this is a service that you could be commissioned
yes.
to actually provide for teams. It's something that is essential. Is that something that you're thinking of doing as well?
Yes,
not only with the individuals, but going to...
Yes, it is, definitely. And that is one of the things that when I mentioned group conversation, that is one of the things that I was referring to, because I do think organisations do need, something like that for groups to be able to open up in and offload to. And because also they may not have time to seek,
very true,
to seek this for themselves. So if the organisation does it, then it is something that I think will, be worthwhile for them to do. And I will be pushing for that and applying to organisations for such a service.
So managers, commissioners could signpost their client, their staff members or teams to you.
Right.
Once they know you're available, because 2021 has got to be about working smarter. We're doing the hard work, but now we need to work smarter and take better care of the people that are putting their well-being on the line.
Absolutely.
To keep the system going.
Yes, I think 2020 we learned a lot.
Oh, yes.
We learned a lot, and now 2021 is almost, looking at the learning that we've had and putting services in place for what has transpired and what seems to be continuing to transpire.
So it's prevention better than cure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They may be suffering from burnout. Please reach out to Melanie for advice, support, and to join her group, either group support or one-to-one at Room to Exhale. I'll be putting up the contact details and further details at the end of this video. Melanie, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate this. Very interesting, and I wish you all the best with that. I know it's going to be amazing anyway, because you're just amazing. Room to Exhale is going to be the gateway service for those people who really are struggling with their workload at the moment.